Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com, and you can also follow us all over social media on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. If you love the show and you want to help support the show, we are also on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. You don't have to, but it's there if you want to help us out. That would be appreciated. And as always, we do appreciate everyone who has done that. We are part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for some of the other shows that I do or some of my pals do, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. As always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova, and you can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode is coming at you about a year late, but better late than never. We are finally going to review the animated film Reign of the Supermen. And joining me, it's not Brendan and it's not Jamie. Because like I said on our 2019 year in review, neither of them were particularly interested in reviewing this movie because they're slackers and they don't care about you guys. I care about you. Them, jerks, fair weather podcasters. So when I did that episode and I said, yeah, I want to do it, I'll just get a bigger Superman fan on it, our guest today reached out to me and he's like, hey, I love that movie and you know how much I love Superman. And I was like, yes, I do know those things. So this is fellow podcaster, DC fan. It is Stephen Marshall. Hey, Stephen.
Hey. Greetings from the UK.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, thank you. Greetings from China to the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's big honor, to be honest. I've wanted to come on this show for years, so it's like fulfilling a dream.
Well, good. We try to make dreams come true. No, I'm glad to have you. I mean, you've been like a social media friend for years, and this is the first time we've ever talked to each other. But you know, you're one of those people. This is why I had you on, is because you're one of the people that like love Superman more than almost anyone I know. There are a few of you, but you're up there. You're always super supportive. We get an email from you like once a week.
Yeah,
which is always nice.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're from you because they're always about Superman on this Batman show.
You might be surprised by my next one then.
And then also like just like on Twitter and stuff, you're always just super positive and pleasant, and like, you know, on Twitter that's a rarity.
Oh, thank you.
And so I like it when people are just nice and friendly and easy to get along with on Twitter instead of being jerks all the time. So for those reasons, here you are.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying not to get into many Twitter spats anymore because I think they're not very productive, are they? You just end up kind of arguing with somebody and it's pointless. Then one of you blocks each other or you just part ways. So just like, what's the point? So I'm trying not to.
Yeah, and it just ruins your day. Like, who needs that?
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth your time, is it?
Yeah, not at all. So anyway, tell us a little about yourself. And then, as is tradition, because it's your first time on the show, you've got to tell everybody your favorite Batman movie.
Okay.
And why.
Yeah, well, as you said, my name's Stephen. I'm from the UK. I've been into comic books since I was comic book superhero since I was like 4 years old. And the first film that I saw was Superman the movie, which was what got me onto, you know, Superman and Batman and all that all sort of followed on. There's also like a bit of a misconception that if you like Superman, you can't like Batman, which I've never understood. So
I've never understood that either. Like, I'm a huge Batman fan, and people for some reason think I don't like Superman. I'm like, no, yeah. I love Superman. I just like Batman a tiny bit more, but you can. Yeah, it's such a weird thing that it gets pitted against each other.
Well, my wife's father bought my son like a Batman thing, and they were all like looking at me and smiling, and I'm like, what's up with you? And they're like, oh, he's got a Batman costume. And I'm like, yeah, I love Batman. I'm like, don't dislike Batman because I like Superman. I like more than one superhero. It's just Superman's my favourite. It's just like, but in my like ranking of superheroes, it's like, Superman number 1 and Batman number 2. So, and it's like a close number 2. It's not like a distant number 2 or anything. So, but yeah, I just wanted to get that out there because that was something I thought was. I didn't want to make out like I just loved Superman, and I'm also not one of those Superman fans that I don't blindly love everything. I've got issues with certain films, and although I do like all the Superman films and stuff. So, and I like most of the Batman films, bar one, which I think is actually the one that you think's all right, and you don't like Forever, do you? It's Batman and Robin, basically, that I don't like.
I don't really like either of them, like...
Neither of them are great.
Neither of the Schumacher Batman films do it for me. I think I get more fired up about Forever just because of how many apologists are out there, and I think that's what frustrates me more than anything. But no, I don't particularly care for either of them.
I think what frustrates me about Forever is I think it could have been a great Batman film because all the ingredients were there, but it just didn't. They didn't get mixed properly, did they? So
yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much me. I mean, obviously, I've got a wife and 2 kids, so, and Jacob, who's my eldest, he's 3. He loves Batman. Batman's his favourite, so I need to get Evan to love Superman so I can balance it out, and then I can do my own Dawn of Justice. So. And my favourite Batman film is Batman '89 because, well, I just think it's the best Batman film. I know it's got its issues, and I wish the Joker didn't die at the end and stuff, which I know is a spoiler. Sorry.
I think it's okay. 30 years, you're good.
Yeah, so I'll probably put, if I had to run something close to it, Batman Begins, because that film I was like really hyped about that film in a way that I get more, because I get that hype for like, the way I got hyped for Man of Steel was like the most hyped I've ever been for a film, and then Batman Begins was like a similar level of hype, so that shows how much I was excited about that film. So if I had to run somewhat close, it'd be that, but it's Batman '89, and surprise, surprise, my favourite Batman's Michael Keaton. But I just think he's the best. I think he nailed the voice. I don't think anyone else has nailed the voice. Apart from him in live action. I don't know if you agree with that, but
no, I think that's fair.
I guess Kevin Conroy has now because he did Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
But
But if you're talking like live action,
yeah,
I think that's fair. Like Adam West didn't really do a voice, right?
No.
He just was Adam West. I mean, he was the same, but it was a different time, different thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael Keaton had a great difference. Kilmer and Clooney also didn't really do anything different that I can think of. They kind of just did their voice.
I think Kilmer tried to go a bit raspy, but Clooney didn't even do anything. He just...
No, Clooney did Adam West. He just did Clooney, yeah. And then obviously Bale's voice is a point of contention. I don't hate it like a lot of fans do, but it's not perfect.
I love it in Begins, but I think
Begins was the right balance, and then it's just for the Dark Knight Rises is too much. And then Affleck was fine, but he kind of had the little modulator thing. I'll agree. Like Keaton was like less is more, and it was super effective.
There's just something about the mood of that film, isn't there, that's just like perfect. It's such a good film. I might have to watch it tonight now.
Excellent. I support it. And you are a big Superman fan. You're here to talk about Superman. So what's your favorite Superman film?
Oh, you put me on the spot now.
Yep, sorry.
Right. If I had to go, I always go back to Superman 78 because that's my favourite comic book film ever. But I do love Man of Steel a lot. And it's like, if you ask me on a different day, I might say Man of Steel. But I think if I actually put my head, took my head off or whatever, just took my heart, I think I'd have to go Superman 78. So
yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, but I do really love Man of Steel. It's like it is close. It's like touching distance close. So they're very different. They're very much the same film in a way, but they're also very different in the way they approach the material. So
right,
that's the way I look at it. So yeah.
Cool. Well, nope, makes total sense. And yeah, just like I love Batman '89, I love Batman Begins. Those are my 2 favorite Batman films. I love Superman the movie, and I love Man of Steel. It's the same thing. They're very different approaches, but they're both awesome.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with loving them both. Well, last year, early, the first thing we got after New Year's last year was a new Superman animated film. And as I said, like I went and saw it in the theater. On the year in review, I was like, I think I saw it in the theater. I think I'm remembering that correctly. And then one of our listeners was like, yeah, it was out in the theater. Oh, because like, okay, good. Like that was how I remembered it, but I wanted to make sure. And I was like, yeah, we haven't reviewed it on the show, but we will get back around to it. And you're not the only one who offered, but you were the first. So I
got in there fast,
I took you up on it. Cool. Yeah, you got right in there. And I knew that would happen. I was kind of throwing it out to the universe, and then I'm sure someone will be like, hey, I'll do it. So yeah, last year we got Reign of the Supermen, and yeah, it was one that I kept trying to make the episode happen, and it just wasn't coming together, and so it's a little late, but the good news is now it's readily available. It's on DC Universe for everybody who has the streaming service, or if you're already a DC fan, maybe you already own the movie, but at least this way, people have more time to watch it, and people can go watch it now. So without further ado, we're going to take a look back at well, it's no longer the new animated film, the 1 year old, and in honor of its 1 year anniversary, we're going to look at the animated version of Reign of the Supermen. And like I said, I think it was released like the second week of January.
Yeah, I went to see it as well because I had this like moment where I thought this might be the not the last time, but like I might not get to see Superman in the cinema again for a long time. So I'm like, I'm gonna go see this. Mm-hmm. And there was like four. Well, and they did four people in there.
Oh, they did the double feature too, right? Didn't they do Death of Superman and then Reign of the Supermen?
Yeah. And when we went to see it, when Reign of the Supermen started, there was no sound, so I had to go tell somebody to sort the sound out. Yeah. So
yeah, I was pretty sure that I saw the double feature, and honestly, like even though it's a double feature, it's a movie and a sequel. Like you can kind of smash them together, sort of like the Dark Knight Returns 2-parter.
Yeah, and it just makes for one. As well on the Blu-ray.
Are they actually edited together
with some extra footage? And I use quotation marks extra footage. It's like 10 seconds of footage.
Really? Okay, I wanted to pick that one up and I just didn't. But yeah, I didn't realize they actually edited them together. I thought they just put the two movies together on one disc or something.
No, they're actually together because you know when at the end of Death of Superman when you had all the little snippets with the Supermen.
Yes.
Well, you know when Superboy he just grabbed his jacket, didn't he, in the Death of Superman? Well, in this you actually see him who walks to the lift and Lex Luthor's there. So they added that bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's some extra funeral little bits and stuff. There's not. He's literally like 10 seconds extra footage.
So it's 10 seconds, but I think you just talked me into buying it.
If you don't, do you own the single editions?
Well, no, I don't think I bought the single editions because that was when DC Universe launched, and I was like, oh, well, why buy them? They're there, So I think, and then when they announced that they were putting them together as, I think it's called The Death and Return of Superman.
That's right, yeah.
Once they announced that, I was like, oh, I'll buy that. And then I just forgot.
Yeah, so, if you don't own them, I'd recommend it. If you own them, I won't bother. But if you own them, I'd recommend it. Plus, you get a little cyborg figure with it, so that's quite cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, when we're done, I'm going to go on Amazon.
Steel. Get me nails mixed up. Yeah.
So, no, yeah, because again, like The Dark Knight Returns, I feel like these two, it's just one long movie cut in two. But... Yeah. For their business, they had to sell it in 2 parts just to make it worthwhile. But yeah, so again, this was released. The Fathom events, according to Wikipedia, was on January 13th last year, and then it was released digitally and on Blu-ray on January 15th. So yeah, it was. Yeah,
that sounds right. Yeah. Was that a Monday?
Yeah,
was that a Monday?
Feels right.
It was a Monday, wasn't it? Sorry, I'm being.
If you say so.
It's right, thinking. Maybe it was a Sunday, actually. It might have been a Sunday. I can't remember. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll believe you.
I went to see it, though, and I definitely went to see it.
So this one was directed by Sam Liu, written by Tim Sheridan and Jim Krieg, based, of course, on the classic comic book arc. Some of the voices, Jerry O'Connell as Superman, Rebecca Romaine as Lois Lane, Rainn Wilson as Lex Luthor, Cress Williams, Black Lightning, as Steel, Cameron Monaghan from Gotham as Superboy, Jason O'Mara as Batman, Rosario Dawson as Wonder Woman. So yeah, this was the second part, and this was their second crack at this story, because the very first DC, it's not the very first DC animated movie, but the first one of this new era of DC animated movies was Superman Doomsday.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. In fact, I think if you buy, there's like a deluxe edition of Death and Return, and you get Superman Doomsday with it as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which I don't know why you'd want to have that as well, but maybe.
I don't mind it. No, I think it's okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean it in a derogatory way. I don't think it's like, I didn't think it was the best DC animated film, but I think you've already got the story there. Why would you want to watch it? Maybe it's a different version.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Like, I think the issue with Doomsday, and we've never reviewed that on this show either. So hey, if Jamie and Brendan don't want in, maybe you'll come back and do that.
Yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
The thing about Doomsday is I think it gets a bum rap. I think what holds it back is, yes, it was the first one, so they were still sort of figuring it out. And they also bit off more than they could chew. It's a very long and involved story. And in order to make it all fit into that one, I think it was 75 minutes. In order to fit the death and return into a 75-minute story, they just had to cut so much. Yeah. And I think that's what peeved some fans off a bit, because you didn't get the 4 Supermen. You just got the Return of Superman. You didn't get the other versions. And I think people were bummed about that. And I think I even was at the time, but I also went, well, how do you do all that in this short amount of time? Yeah. Which is why I think it was ripe for revisiting it this way and being able to tell that story now.
Yeah, and that one, that one, I think that one falls apart after the death, where this one obviously picks up. The death was one film, and then you pick up the whole story in its own. Is this 75 minutes? Actually, I can't remember how long it was.
This one's 87.
Oh,
so
is
it?
Oh god, didn't even realize. That's how much I would enjoy it, because it goes that fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Superman Doomsday one, I think that fell apart after they brought him back. Well, I say brought him back after the death, and then the build to the return. I think that's when that one started to. But they got the core story, didn't they?
Yeah. So
I guess I thought it was a decent effort. It wasn't my favourite, but I didn't like the guy who voiced Superman in it. It was somebody Baldwin, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was Adam Baldwin from
yeah.
Firefly, right?
I didn't think his voice sounded like Superman to me, so I was a bit...
Yeah.
But...
So... It made sense though that like that one came out, and I think it's better than people give it credit for, but it certainly wasn't able to capture everything that was part of the classic story.
No.
And so it made sense now that they've done so many of these, and they've got this really, well-oiled machine of churning these out. It made sense to go back and go, hey, we can do it again, and it won't just feel like the same movie again.
Yeah.
And then cutting it into 2 parts makes a lot of sense too. So. I had no problem with that. I liked it because I always thought that the 4 Supermen was a really cool thing in the comics, and it was nice to then see it translated to a movie.
Yeah, I remember the first time I read I got the 3 graphic novels, and I had like Death of, World Without, and Return of Superman. It's called the massive. It's like a massive, thick graphic novel. And I would just I think I read it over like 2 nights. I just sat there on the kitchen table reading it, and. Because I've always really thought the Eradicator was really cool, and when I first read the book, I thought he was Superman, and I thought he would just lost his mind. So, in my mind, I thought one of them was supposed to be Superman, but obviously there's a bit of a twist to all that and stuff. But yeah. So
well, for the comic, like, did you read it when it was first coming out?
No, I remember I had part of it. The bit where he's... I assume you've read it all, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I haven't read it since it was new. So I was super into it when the story was happening in real time. I remember buying The Death of Superman, and then I bought a lot of the Return of... Well, not the Return, whatever, the Reign of the Supermen. I bought a lot of those at the time, and I read them. And, like, everyone had their favorite, and they each took over a different book.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And so I read them then, but I haven't revisited it since then. So watching this movie, I was like, I don't remember how much they're keeping and how much they're making up that's brand new? I just don't remember.
I do some of it. I had to flick through it last night just to quick see if there was anything I'd spot, but because like Supergirl's a big part in the comic arc, which she's not in this at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think now. Yeah, when I had like a little. It was, I want to say it was a graphic novel, but I think it was like a special edition comic or something, and it was just a bit thicker and stuff. And it had, do you know the bit where he's fighting in that like dreamscape with Park Kent, and Park Kent like gets him out? Yeah,
yes, I remember that.
It had all that in, and it ended with the new Superman coming out. So like you had like Superboy escaping Cadmus with the Newsboy Legion and all that sort of stuff. That was all I read when I was younger. But when I was when I got a bit older and I could afford to start buying my own stuff, I bought the like graphic novels and just read it all over like 2 nights. So yeah. So that's my like history with that. I didn't read it as it was coming out because I wasn't really collecting comics. I can't remember how old. Was it 1992, 1993 or something like that?
So the death was in 92. It was like November of 92, I want to say.
Okay.
Maybe December. Could be December 92. And so then, yeah, the reign of the Supermen would have been in 93. But because each of the 4 Supermen took over a different Superman book, I feel like those didn't necessarily cross over until the end when Superman actually did return. So I think they had to take essentially 4 very different story arcs starring 4 different Supermen and try to weave them together for this movie so that way it's just one story. And I think they do that pretty well. Like I think it's pretty admirable how they do that in this movie. So overall, spoiler free, I know you love the movie, but please tell everybody why you love it spoiler free.
Oh God, spoiler free. Yeah, I think it's a very satisfying conclusion to the this is the return arc and the death arc. Because I think the Death of Superman was actually a better film personally, but this wasn't like. What's the word I'm looking for? Death of Superman was like better, but I didn't think it was like a lot better. It was just a better like overall film. But Return of Superman I just thought they did like a satisfying like conclusion to the story, and they basically, like you said, about they cut the fat out, didn't they, of the book, which obviously they had to because they couldn't do all those side stories. And I think didn't they want he dead for like a year or 2 or something?
Maybe it was about a year.
Was it a year? Yeah. So
I'd have to check.
There's
but
probably a
that
lot
sounds
of side,
about right.
Yeah, there's a lot of side stories. I think there was a side story called Bloodlines. Actually, now I think back to it. So there's, they obviously didn't have much. They sort of do a nod to that, but that's not actually in it. So yeah, I guess all I can say, because I can't really talk about without spoiling it really, but satisfying movie, enjoyed it, and for me, I just think I don't know if they could have done it any better than what they did without more time, if that makes sense. So that's my non-spoiler thoughts.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah, and I remember really liking it when I went to see it in the theater. I agree with you. I think Death of Superman was a little better because I just think it's a little more focused.
Yeah.
Because you only have to focus on Superman and Lois, really. The Justice League is there, but it's Superman's story. And I think the challenge with this one is it's not. It's the world story without Superman, and then it's 4 new Supermen that you have to follow. And again, I think that the challenge in writing this is in getting all 4 of their stories to collide in a way that makes sense, that gives you enough information about all 4 of them. And then eventually, of course, you get Superman back. Maybe, I don't think that's a spoiler. I think that's pretty fair.
Considering the omnibus version's called Death and Return of Superman, I think people would have to.
I think it's okay.
Pretty silly to be.
Superman comes back. Yeah, Superman comes back. But I think that this one is was just harder to adapt because there's just so much ground you have to cover with 4 Supermen, and plus what's going on with Lois, plus what's going on with Lex, and then plus eventually the return of Superman. So it's a harder bill, or it's a harder order to fill. But I think that they do it very well. It's not perfect. I think there's some things that hold it back, which I will get into when we get into spoilers. But overall, I think that it's done pretty admirably. I still think it's very compelling, and I still really like it. I've always liked the idea of the 4 Supermen, and I think that's a cool idea, and I think that this version of it does it justice. I think the animation is really good. I think the action is really good. And again, I think that the story does a pretty good job of tying it all together and making for a very fitting sequel to The Death of Superman.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, but I'm really glad I rewatched it before we recorded, because I swear I only remembered the first half. The whole second half, I must have been distracted or something, but I had forgotten everything that happens in the second half of this movie. So I was glad to to revisit it and go, that's right.
It was a year ago.
Yeah, it was a year. So I liked it. I don't know if I would say loved it, but I liked it. And so, yeah, that's why I was a little surprised that, like, Jamie was like, I didn't like it. I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, I can understand, like, not loving it. I just don't know what there is to not like about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's got their own opinions, haven't they? But I kind of thought the same. I'm like, I don't get how you could dislike it. Unless you've got a hang up with something in particular that you just can't let go
unless,
of.
Yeah, unless you were like really tied to something from the source material that got, that got cut or got misrepresented in the movie, something like that.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it tells the story it wants to tell, I think, in a pretty satisfying way. And I think they do a nice job with the 4 Supermen. I always thought it was super clever that each of the 4 replacement Supermen was a personification of one of Superman's nicknames.
Yes, yeah.
So the Man of Steel became Steel. And Superboy became a new version of Superboy. And the last son of Krypton became the Eradicator. And then the Man of Tomorrow becomes Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was just such a clever way to make these 4 new versions of the character, of going, oh, what else is Superman known for? And then that will become a version.
Yeah, that's really clever, that. When you were saying it, I kind of said, yeah, and then as you kept saying that, I was like, oh, yeah. You keep hearing more and more. But because I remember mostly with Steel in the comic, like they called him the Man of Steel, didn't they, for quite a long time in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
it is interesting that of the 4, Steel is really the only one who stuck around.
Yeah,
like he's still out there. He sort of stayed in continuity, but Superboy got replaced by the current version. So I feel like that a lot of people call him the 90s Superboy. He sort of went away. He was around for a while, though. He didn't disappear immediately.
Yeah.
I feel like he had his own book, and he did a lot of stuff in the 90s, but then they eventually replaced him with the current Connor Kent.
Well, they kind of made him a bit darker, didn't they, and stuff as well? Because you had the Young Justice. Connor Kent is not this Connor Kent, is it? It's like completely. But
it's funny because it's still a very similar origin.
Oh yeah. The origin's pretty similar, but I mean in terms of like just his personality is a lot more.
Yeah.
This one's a lot more what's the word? Juvenile would be a good way to put it.
Right. Yeah, and then the Eradicator, I don't remember him. Maybe he came back at some point, but I don't remember it.
He did a couple of times, yeah. He was actually there was the Trial of Superman story arc, and he was involved in that, and it was like Superman, Steel, Supergirl, Superboy all go off on this spaceship somewhere, and the bad guy in that Cyborg Superman, which started to get annoying after when you read the comics at the time. It was like literally a secret villain, and it ended up being Cyborg Superman every time. You were like, for God's sake.
So yeah, I mean, I guess they all sort of stuck around here and there, but Steel, I feel like, is the only one who is currently active.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
If that makes sense.
I've always liked Steel as well.
Yeah, me too. I always thought it was cool. And how random is it that of all of the different DC characters, Steel got a movie before Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and like. It's insane to me that movie happened. One of these days we're going to cover it on this show because it's worth it. But like at that point, Steel was 3 years old because he came out in like 93. And I think that the Steel movie came out in 96.
Yeah, it was 96, 97 time, wasn't it, I think. But that happened though, didn't it? Because Shaquille O'Neal wanted to play Superman, didn't he? So he was like, well, you can play Steel. So. Exactly.
I think that had to have been it, but it's so crazy to me that Okay, so it was 97. You're right.
Is it 97?
So he was 4. He was 4 years old. But it's just so crazy that movie happened. And even as I was watching this, I was like, how is it that dude got a movie? It's so nuts. And I was rooting for that movie when it came out, because any superhero movie I would root for. But then I saw it and I was like, yeah, I can't really root
I think
for this
the worst thing's the mask, because he's got the mouth cut out.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I thought the 4 Supermen was always a very cool concept, and again, I think that's what most people missed in Doomsday, and I'm glad they did it here. So I want to talk spoilers. So if you guys haven't seen the movie, Steven loves it. Like, I feel like you said it was one of your favorite movies of last year.
It was yeah. Do you want me to explain that a little bit, and then so. I was thinking of just movies I went to the cinema to see. I wasn't thinking necessarily every film I saw last year, and I was thinking, well, when I went to the cinema to watch Endgame, I sort of walked out for, that was great. And then after 5 minutes, I was like, actually, no, it wasn't that great, was it? So, I kind of got a bit disappointed in something. I loved Shazam, so it was close between this and Shazam. But then I was like, when I watched Shazam the first time, I really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it yet. And it's when I rewatched it, I loved Shazam. So I thought, right, I can't have that one. And I love Joker as well, but I'm like, but Joker's not really a nice film, is it? It wasn't like, do you know what I mean? You don't leave it thinking, I can't wait to. I didn't leave it thinking I can't wait to watch that film again. I sort of left my mind blown, like, what have I just watched? And then I was like, well, the most satisfied I was watching in the cinema was Reign of the Supermen, which was in the double bill with the Death of Superman. So that's why I kind of went off more of the experience than the film itself. Because I mean, if I was going to say what's a better film, like Joker's like a better like film. I mean, this is an animated film, so it's a bit unfair to compare, but but for me, I just it was like the best time I had in the cinema last year was watching this Superman film with Death of Superman. It was just, and it, obviously because it's my man Superman, and it's I'm always gonna be a bit of bias there, isn't there? So when it's your favorite,
of course.
So.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah. So like, Steven loved it. I really liked it. I think it's, if you like the source material and you like Superman and you like this story arc, I think that you should enjoy the animated version. Yeah. So I would say to check it out. And again, if you have DC Universe, it's right there, at your disposal. So it's nice and easy to get to.
It's all right if you've got it. We don't get it over it.
I know. I realized that as I was saying it at the beginning. I was like, oh, it's perfect, because right now it's on DC Universe, and I'm like, oh, and the guy I'm talking to is in the UK and doesn't have DC Universe. So I know. Sorry about that.
No. I find ways to watch
my DC Universe in China, it's very hit and miss, but this morning it worked wonderfully as I was in bed with my coffee, so I was able to watch it. And sometimes I'll watch it and it'll be a little grainy just because of the connection. Yeah. But this morning it worked beautifully, so I was very happy that the internet gods were with me today. But yeah, for anyone else, it's still out there, and I do think that it's worth checking out. The other thing I think that's notable is that they did make the decision for this one and for the Death of Superman to put it into the ongoing animated continuity.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about that when I first heard, but when I watched the film,
I don't think they needed to, and I don't know if they did it just because it was a way to again differentiate it from Doomsday, but I do think I would have preferred it as a one-off, so they could have changed up the animation style. Yeah, I think that would have I would have preferred that, because for Death of Superman, I went, oh yeah, it was great, I really liked it, and then there was this like short video that was on the internet where it was like, it was an animated Superman fighting an animated Doomsday, and it was done as like a promo, but it was done in the style of the comic book.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about,
and someone went, oh, that's what they should have made the movie look like. And I was like, oh crap, you're right. That would have been awesome. So yeah, I do think that, I don't mind it in the continuity, but yeah, do I think it would have been better if it had been standalone so they could have changed the art style? Yes, I do. I do think so.
I wonder if they did it as well. Sorry, I wonder if they did it as well because this Superman was established, so it's almost like you already had that, connection with him. I wonder if that was one of the reasons so we already had
I think
connection
so.
to the world,
yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that is why, is because by making it in continuity, they didn't have to establish this Superman or this Justice League. Like, those are all just carrying over. So it does make it makes for a shorthand, so you can get to the story they want to tell quicker.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So that makes sense. Anyway, spoiler warning is now in effect. We're going to speak freely about this movie. If you've ever read the comic, I think you're okay. But the movie's a year old. Check it out. I think it's a good watch. So now the spoiler warning has been put out there. So this is what I want to say is that going in way back in 1993 or whenever they premiered in the comics, there was like this big mystery of like, oh, which one is the real Superman?
Yeah.
And there's the 4 of them. And my dear friend Dillip, who, again, like he's my best friend growing up. I was the Batman guy. He was the Superman guy. But again, we like both. I just remember talking to him about it. And like, even then I loved the Eradicator. I was like, oh man, I like that one. Because I love the design of him. I think he looks the coolest. And I just remember Dillip going, oh, you like the Murderer? And I was like, I mean, I guess. And then in the book, like it's different in the movie than it is in the book. In the book, he literally did inhabit Clark's body. So in the book, it was literally the Eradicator's consciousness in Superman's body, which is why he also looked exactly like Superman. In the movie, it's something different. But yeah, I just liked him the best. And so even now watching the movie, he's still my favorite. Part of it is probably nostalgia, but I just think he looks the coolest. And in the movie, they did pull back a little bit, that he's not so much a murderer. He's a little more brutal than Superman would be.
I was going to ask you about that because, like, it's, you know, the beginning, obviously, where you first see him, and he's a bit of reminds me like of more of a Batman scene, that where he busts in and the criminals are opening and he comes in, doesn't he, and he like shoots 2 of them and then breaks one of them's arm. And I was like, well, those 2 he shot. I was like, has he killed them, or are they just stunned?
Well, because later on he tries to shoot Lex, and Lex throws Mercy in front of him.
That was so tight.
Which is kind of awesome and evil and so Lex.
It's very Lex. Yeah.
But then later on, Lex says that, oh, Mercy is still in traction, or she's still in the hospital. So she survived. Like, she survived this straight on blast from the Eradicator, which leads me to think that yes, it's not fatal, but yes, it's very. But then do you harmful.
Kind of think what's the point? Because he talks about he's always talking about eradication. So if he just stuns them, and what's that going to do? Because he actually goes after Lex, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, because even I mean, Wonder Woman even says something, and she goes, "Oh, you know, I like the one with the visor, the really brutal one. Apparently, I have a type." So even she says, like they don't imply that he's a killer; they just imply that he is far too violent than what Superman should.
So maybe he'll leave him with broken limbs and stuff, and
right. But yeah, he was always my favorite of the 4, and I will say my biggest issue with the movie is he gets the most shortchanged in the movie.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case, yeah.
I think the movie does a very good job giving time to Steel, to Superboy, and Cyborg Superman, and Eradicator gets pushed off to the side, which frustrates me because he's my favorite one.
Yeah, and I think when it starts, you kind of don't get that impression, do you? Because he's there quite early on, but then he sort of
in the first half he is there, and then he disappears for the second half of the movie.
But it's like they set it up because they set him up, didn't they, in the Death of Superman?
Yeah.
Did you see him on that? But because I obviously, like I said, when I read the comic, I thought he was Superman, and I thought he just needed to get his like memory back and stuff. Although he did have his hand was a bit more in the comic. He sort of had it's like an effect on his arm on it, whereas in this he just sort of fired light beams out of his out of the palm of his hand. So it was a. So I always wonder if people watch this film and didn't know the art, do they think one of these is Superman when they watch this?
Right. Yeah, because in the comics that was how they set it up, and then of course the answer was none of them.
Because we know, don't we? Because we've read the story. Yeah. So, but do they? But people know. So.
Yeah, I don't think they do it. If that's what they're going for, I don't know if they do a great job of that, because I just feel like if I were watching it, I wouldn't think any of them were. But maybe it's just because I know. I don't know.
That's what I mean. We'll never know if we would have thought that, would we? So because we know the story arc. So
Yeah. So anyway, that's my biggest complaint, is that halfway through they sort of forget about the Eradicator and he's just gone. And it's frustrating. Because they do a great job with Steel. I love Steel. He's my second favorite. I think he's a great character, and I think it's great that he is the one that has continued on. I love that it's Cress Williams doing the voice.
Yeah.
They set him up well in The Death Of, and I really like his character in this one too. And then Superboy gets a lot of play too.
Yeah.
And especially because of his relationship with Lex. And I do like the ongoing thing of he wants to be Superman. He wants everyone to call him Superman.
Yeah.
And they can't help it. They're like, no, that's Superboy.
Well, that's in the comics that as well, isn't it? Because he gets really annoyed in the comic. He's calling Superboy. He's like, don't call me Superboy. Whereas in this, I think he does kind of get annoyed, but he don't get like angry. Whereas in the comic, he gets really angry because the Newsboy Legion, I think, call him Superboy at first time, and he's like, don't call me Superboy. So I can't do an American accent. So that's my best attempt.
That's okay.
He's my second favorite. Is Superboy actually? I've always loved that character. Superboy is my second favorite.
This version?
Yeah. I've always liked the '90s version of Superboy. I've got quite a few of the comics as well. So I'm always been a fan.
So here's a question, because traditionally, Superboy was always just Clark Kent as a teenager.
Yeah.
It was always the same character, right?
Yeah.
Was this version the first time he was a separate character from Clark Kent?
I believe so, yeah.
Because now, Superboy is a different character, and now there's two Superboys, right? There's Connor Kent, which is like the Young Justice version, but then there's also now Jonathan, Clark's son, who's Superboy as well, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So now you got two Superboys running around.
Yeah, and no Eradicator.
So, I guess I was just thinking about that as I was like, I think this is the first time Superboy became his own character.
I think you're right, yeah.
I could be wrong. Someone will tell me if I am, but...
there might be like a side
so
story somewhere or something, but I don't think there's a continuity story where he was until this, so... Yeah, I think you're right.
There you go. So I think they do a great job of those. And Cyborg Superman, even in the comics, I never trusted him. I didn't like him. He looks like the Terminator. I knew he was never one to be trusted. Like,
I'm going to confess something now about. I've never liked Cyborg Superman.
I haven't either.
Superman fans, you see him all the time suggesting villains for a film, Cyborg Superman. I'm like, he's just like a robot Bizarro that can talk normal. What's the point?
Yeah.
I just find him so pointless. I think he worked in this story, but I think he should have been a one and done in the comics. I don't think he should have ever come back.
Yeah, I completely agree. In this story, I like it. It makes sense. Like, I like the spin on the Man of Tomorrow. I like that he's the one who gets the trust of the people. And then I like that he ends up being the villain. Like, I think that for this story, I think it works. But you're right. Is that a villain we need again in the future? No, because you're right. He's very similar to a Bizarro or a Metallo. Like, why do you need Cyborg Superman?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so like in this, I don't mind it. But he was always my least favorite of the four. So in the comics, when he became the villain, I actually was happy about that because I was like, well, good, because I didn't like him anyway. And then I do like that it essentially becomes Superman, Superboy, and Steel teaming up to take down Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
But my biggest problem is, why isn't the Eradicator with them? Why shouldn't it be all of them versus Cyborg Superman? Why is the Eradicator left behind? It just
it calls him
so
his
confusing
wild card, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. But like I don't know, like when they're leaving the Fortress of Solitude and they're going to stop him, and you got Superman who's like depowered and in the ship with Superboy and Steel on either side. I was like, why wouldn't you bring the other guy?
Well, they could have had
especially
Eradicator fighting Cyborg Superman while he's getting Lois to safety. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like why would you leave that guy behind? And then you find out he didn't leave him behind, but he also was not using him. Yeah, that one I just felt like that was a miss, because especially in the context of this movie where he's not a killer and he actually is on the side of Superman. Like in the comics, he was a little more evil. So I understood then like why Superman wouldn't condone it, but in this one you feel like no, he was this like Kryptonian kind of artificial intelligence that's there to protect Superman.
Yeah,
you'd use that.
It was almost like they wanted to keep it back so you'd kind of forget about him, and then when he came back it was like he's
right.
That's the only thing I can think. I mean, I think the comic actually did a better job of dealing with the Eradicator, because he's kind of almost like you said about him being quite violent and stuff. Kind of crosses the line, doesn't he? And the kind of Lois Lane kind of calls him out on it, doesn't she? And he sort of realizes what he's doing is wrong. And I think they don't ever touch that in the animated film. They're kind of almost just like Superman's like, oh yeah, he's been looking after him. And I'm like, yeah, and he's been breaking criminals' arms and doing all this stuff that you don't agree with, but you're not saying what to.
Well, and it was so weird because in the first half, he was still out there trying to help, even though it was too violent. He was still out there like trying to help what Superman would be doing. And then in the second half, he's just in the Fortress of Solitude. He just stopped doing it for whatever reason. But I did like I liked how they explained it when Superman comes to, and I think it's Steel who's like, oh, and so he just put on a cape and decided to start taking the law into his own hands.
Superman just raises his eyebrow.
Yeah, and Superman just kind of looks at Steel being like, those in glass houses should not throw stones.
It is, I was just saying.
Yeah. I really like, number one, I like how really the hero of this whole movie is Lois Lane.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say that I absolutely loved.
I think that's great because you don't have Superman. He's dead for 2/3 of the movie. And these 4 Supermen have to remain mysterious, and we can spend time with them, but we also have to go, who are they? What's their deal? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they him? So I think they do a really great job of letting Lois Lane take the lead, and then she remains the lead throughout. I think that that's something I always appreciate in any Superman story is when they give Lois something important to do. I don't want her just there for Superman to save. Yeah. I want her to have a meaningful role, and I think this is great. Like I love that she's mourning Clark. She can't even go to work yet. She's still having a really hard time, and then these 4 guys show up, and it gives her new purpose. Yeah. To go, well, I can't be at peace until I find out what's going on with these, and to make sure that none of them are him.
Yeah, and I remember.
And then that just leads from there.
Yeah, because like in Justice League, which I actually do quite like that film, she doesn't have anything to do, does she really?
No, not at all.
Yeah. And it's like when you watch this, you're like, oh, that's what they should have done in that start. I think basically when these 2 films, this is what they should have done in live action, but like down the line, they should have like done a couple of Superman films and then had like a Death and Return like 2-part thing. Yeah, would have been a lot better. But yeah, I think the Lois Lane stuff, because I've always been a massive because it's funny because everyone goes, who's your favorite female superhero? And I always say Lois Lane, even though she's not a superhero, because Lois Lane's my favorite female character in DC Comics. It's like, do you watch like The Flash and stuff? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like Iris sometimes on that does my head in a little bit, and then you've got like Felicity on Arrow does your head in a little bit. But I'm like, I don't know what it is about Lois, but Lois Lane has never like rubbed me the wrong way like that in anything. It's always been like I've always just loved that character. So to see her get more to do here, it was like, I mean, she had plenty to do in the first film as well, but like this one especially, it's like it's her film, isn't it? This one in a way.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I always loved about Batman versus Superman is I love that in a movie with Batman and Superman and eventually Wonder Woman, like there's still so much focus on Lois, which I think is great. Yeah. Like she shouldn't get left behind, and I love that she adds a lot of value by just being really smart and resourceful and investigative. Like I think that is a great thing to take advantage of for telling stories. And I think that this one does that well because she really is, she takes us through and does that investigation and she drives the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and she's the one who like figures it out, isn't she, with Van Kenshaw as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean, I didn't think it took a rocket scientist when you saw the video clip, but she's the one who obviously, she's the one who's like, who goes to find the stalker, because she doesn't trust him straight away, does she? She says something about him that she doesn't trust, and that, like you say, he looks evil anyway, doesn't he? So.
Yeah, right. Not to judge a book by its cover, but come on.
I don't like the design of Cyborg Superman in this compared to the comic. I think it looks better in the comic, but I understand this is the design based off what Superman looks like in this world.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
it's interesting how, because the designs in the comics were very mid-90s, especially Superboy.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how here, because it's in continuity and it's supposed to take place in the present, how they did have to tweak each of their looks to make them a little more current.
Yeah, and Superboy in the comic has got like this weird thing going on with these two belts that I never understood.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that across his midriff. So
I do.
I kind of think this was an improvement on his design. Yeah,
because it's still the same design. They just took some of the 90s-ish away from it.
Yeah, they kind of eliminated those belts and skull of elements.
Didn't he have an earring? Like, I feel like he had an earring in the comic.
Yes. Forgot about that. Yeah, he did have an earring, yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense that they would tweak it and they would change it and stuff. So I appreciated that, and I like that Lois creates that relationship with Diana. I thought that was really cool too. Like, what would the female version of a bromance be?
I don't even know.
I don't know what you call that, but yeah. But I guess that's what it is, a bromance between like, Lois and Wonder Woman. Yes, exactly. So I thought that was cool as well. I liked seeing them because, when this in-continuity universe started, they paired up Superman with Diana. Yeah,
and there's obviously like a bit of a joke about it near the end and stuff.
Right.
Because he can't.
So I like that they acknowledge it. Yeah. But yeah, then they sort of bond, and I like the return of Wonder Woman being in the mood for ice cream and stuff.
Yeah. Did you think it's kind of a bit weird when she turns into Wonder Woman? Like, kind of like it goes really silent and then there's just that loud noise, and I'm thinking it seems jarring when there's a big fight going on and she does it, but when and there's music playing, but when it's just silent, it seemed a bit. She does the spin.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that she does it, but it's also weird that she just does it out in the middle of the street in the daylight.
Yeah, I was a bit like, there's loads of people
just takes
around,
off.
You're like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, and this is one where, so I like that, eventually this all leads to, there's like this big gala that Lex is having to sort of introduce Superboy to the world. Yeah. And I like that how the gala then becomes this massive brawl between the four Supermen.
Yeah, and I think that's the best scene in the film, personally. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, because that's what I remembered. Like, remember I said, I only remembered the first half of the movie. I remembered it because I remembered there was this big thing at LexCorp where all four Supermen converged upon it, and it was just cool to get all four of them in this big fight together. That's what I remembered. I didn't remember the finale with Darkseid and Parademons and whatever you want to call the army of superpowered people. I don't know what you call them, but I forgot about all of that because I just remembered the four Supermen at LexCorp.
Yeah, then you've got Dabney Donovan, who can't seem to keep it in his pants.
Yeah.
He, because that's funny, because obviously he thinks he's getting lucky, but we know he's not, because he's talking to Lois Lane. But yeah, that I love how, because it starts off, doesn't it, with Superboy fighting Eradicator, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then obviously Superboy is like, oh yeah, he says something like, you better run, doesn't he? And then he's like, he comes flying back down to like crash into him, and he's like, oh god, because he knows he's gonna get pummeled again.
Yeah.
But I think the way Steel enters the fight is like a proper like awesome moment. He just chucks the hammer, doesn't he, and knocks the Eradicator flying and stuff. So, but yeah, that fight is just incredible.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the highlights of the movie, because I do like the story idea of Cyborg Superman sort of gaining the trust of everybody, and then offers everyone like, hey, if you want to help, I'm recruiting and you can have superpowers too. Because that's a hard thing to say no to, you know? Like, you understand why.
But before he offers the superpowers, that one guy can't wait to get away from his girlfriend. He's just
yeah,
like,
right?
I was like, how
the fact
bad
that he
is your
does that.
relationship?
Well, you would think that he would take some time to think it over, but the fact that, like, Cyborg Superman just says it. Like, he just is like, oh, you know, I'm looking for volunteers. And yeah, that guy's like, all right, cool. And it's like,
get me away from this girl.
don't you want to know what the deal is first?
Yeah, and don't you think as well, because I actually think they could have set that up better with him, because if you'd have had him in the first film be like a criminal or something, and he sort of sees the error of his ways because of Superman, maybe you could have set that up a little bit better, but it just sort of comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? Like this guy, and then you've got this little, like, subplot.
Yeah.
With him, and obviously later he doesn't recognise her, does he? But I'm like, does he actually recognise her? He just don't want to deal with her.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's crazy to me is that at the end, when, you know, Cyborg Superman is defeated, and then that means that this army also is defeated. They do the old trope that was like that, where when Cyborg Superman is defeated, everyone else just sort of falls down like drones. Yeah. You know, the old Phantom Menace trick.
Yeah, iRobot, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They do that where I just kind of went, oh, that again, but okay, sure. But the fact that all those people die.
Right, I want to ask you something about this, right? Are they already dead? Because if they're not, Justice League just watch them fall to the ground.
Like, I just get the impression that, yeah, they all, none of them survived it, which is crazy. Because I was like, I thought for sure they would all wake up and then not remember what had happened, and then they would be back to their old selves. But no, like, they all die.
Well, you know about the complaints about the BVS Man of Steel things. Well, more Man of Steel with all the deaths and destructions and stuff. Well, there's a forum I visit, and a guy on there hated this movie because of that. And he said, oh, it's just like Man of Steel again, and they're all dying. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I should have just had them live. At least then I could have avoided.
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly. I feel like it would have been a very easy thing to do, to have them all sort of wake up and being like, what happened? And they're back to normal.
It's quite brave of him, wasn't it, to do that.
Yeah, anyway. It's surprising. So yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's probably the subplot for me, though. I was kind of a bit like not really into this guy wanting to leave his girlfriend.
But again, but I get the idea of all these like normal citizens of being like, oh, it's essentially like joining the military, except you get superpowers.
Well, you're gonna do it, aren't you? Yeah.
It makes sense that people would go, well, yeah, like, great, I can do that. And, you know, they spend their whole lives looking at superheroes going, oh, I wish I was one of them. When Cyborg Superman, who they think is Superman, goes, well, I can offer it to you. I could see why people would go, well, great, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And then that then in turn creates this army for him.
He's clever, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of interesting and kind of neat. I also thought it was interesting how they pulled the Justice League off the table. How there's the sequence in the middle where they're all helping protect the president.
Yeah.
And when that actually happened and I saw Batman, I went, oh, yay, Batman. I forgot he was going to be in this. Like, because it happens pretty late. It's like halfway through the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's nice to see them. And then, yeah, they all get transported away. And so I also like that because it's going to, if you take them off, you're not sitting there going, well, where's the Justice League? Why isn't the Justice League stop this guy? Why aren't they helping?
Yeah. And in the first part, I liked that Doomsday took out the Justice League before he fought Superman.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the comic, it's like Justice League, and it's like the B Squad in the comic, isn't it? But I like that they had to get rid of him here, didn't they? Because if the Justice League go around, Cyborg Superman can't go through his plan and stuff, so it was convenient how they were all stood in the right place for it to fall.
Yeah, I mean, thank God they were all clustered together because if one of them was like, if Batman had was still hanging out on the rooftop a block away, he'd still be around.
Yeah. But I was almost thinking as well, the way, because the thing was quite big, wasn't it, that fell on him? It took a big... So they could have had them a little bit separated. It just seemed awfully convenient. They were kind of stood in like a circle.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was cool. That's when Cyborg Superman obviously saves the president, doesn't he? Which is part of his plan to be.
Right.
Yeah, which is... It is cleverly done, I think, the way they do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they're in some weird,
yeah.
like... playing... It looks like something you'd have seen in like Justice League Dark, doesn't it, where they are? Or it's like monsters
Right.
and... Because I kept thinking like... You know when you start thinking like out the box, when you watch it for 3 times, you start to think like this. But I was like thinking, well, did they even need a wee or did they even eat when they were there?
Yeah. Well, and I kept thinking, I'm like, it looks like they're in space. So thank goodness there's atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a good point because I never even thought that. Yeah.
But I like that it's Lex that ends up bringing them back. I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, don't add me to your friends list.
Yeah.
Do you like
I like
Rainn
that.
Wilson as Lex then?
I do. I think his voice is great.
Because Jamie don't like it, does he?
Jamie hates it, and I was like,
I think he's great.
I think he's really good, especially because I didn't even realize it was him until I looked, and then I went. I mean, not for this one, but I think it was for one of the previous ones where I didn't even know it was him. I just went, oh, this Lex voice is really good. And then when I looked at the credits, I went, oh, Rainn Wilson. And it might have been Death of Superman. And I went, oh, I really like his voice. And Jamie's like, nope, hate it. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I did say that, yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
'Cause
I don't like it.
I mean, like, I get, like, not loving Rainn Wilson because, I mean, like, some of his roles are annoying. So I get that. But that's also the
weird.
point, though. Yeah. But no, I think that he gives a really good performance as Lex. I really do, and I like his Lex in here. I like how Lex is, as always, playing all the angles, and it ends up becoming with him, you know, helping the Justice League back.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he needs them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's what Lex does, doesn't he? Really well. He's all about Lex, isn't he? And he knows if Metropolis gets destroyed and taken out by cyborgs, he's done. So he's got to.
Yeah.
He's got to bring them back, hasn't he? So.
Well, and isn't there a great moment where someone says like, oh, I really hope Superman's still alive, or maybe they say, I'm happy to see him, and Lex goes, I never thought I'd say this, but me too.
Yeah, it's Lois, and she says something like, for the first time. Oh no, she says like, oh, I hope he is or something. He says for the first time, me too, or something. Then
Yeah, where like Lex for the first time is actually wants Superman to be around.
Well, Lex is the
I
one
thought that was cool.
Discovers Darkseid's behind it all, doesn't he? As well.
Yeah.
Voiced by Tony Todd, so Candyman himself.
Yeah, so that was interesting too, because I didn't realize it was him.
Yeah, I think he does
Tony
a good
Todd,
job, yeah.
awesome.
As well.
Yeah.
Well, see, in the comic, it's Cyborg Superman's behind it all, and he's got Mongol, and Mongol's kind of like his underling. Where in this, I thought it was actually smarter to do it this way and have Darkseid be kind of behind it all. And
right.
I don't know if you have a problem with that or anything, but I quite liked that Darkseid was behind it all. I thought it was clever because it linked back to Justice League War as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's just it. Is again, I think that comes with making this in continuity. Is if it were standalone, I think it would just be Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be anyone else. But because they seem to be playing this long game of Justice League versus Darkseid, they incorporated it because they continue to set up this ongoing, or this inevitable war with Apocalypse. Yeah. Which is how the movie ends. So, the movie ends with a happy ending, but then for these in continuity ones, they usually will do a post-credit scene, and they do that here where they're setting up the next fight with Darkseid. And so my question is like, when is that going to happen? Because I remember seeing the slate for this year, but I don't remember anything on there that looked like it was a continuation of this.
There is Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, but then I'm like, that's Justice League Dark. So I'm like, well, are the real Justice League going to be in that, or?
Right.
And then now I think, because I remember when I saw it announced, and I was a little bit annoyed, to be honest, because because obviously there's Batman Hush follows this, doesn't it?
Right.
And you've obviously Lex has a line in that, doesn't he, about how he's part of the Justice League now, and Batman's like, obviously just ignores him. And I was like, all right, so they hadn't actually gone, because the way this film ends, it's like they're going then and there and then, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Where I was like, oh, there should be a direct follow-up to this, but we haven't seen that, or we don't know what that is.
Yeah, and then the daughter seemed to have come, and then they did. Have you seen Wonder Woman Bloodlines? I haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't watched it yet.
All right, because I wonder if that follows on from this, or if it's set before, or well, it can't be, can it? Because she's got a different costume, I think.
Yeah, well, and I think that one more goes backwards, because it's like her origin, but the in-continuity version.
Right, okay. They've already done Origin. I'm surprised they've done it again.
Yeah, me too. I haven't watched it yet because I just keep waiting to do it on this show.
This is a retread, isn't it? So
right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, when I first saw that post-credit scene in the cinema, the thing I geeked out about was the yellow S was on the back of the cape, and I get really geeky about that being on the cape. I always like it there, so... but yeah, I was like, oh, so... Because I saw this before obviously the slate for next year was announced. I thought, oh, right, so we'll be getting a Justice League versus Darkseid, and then we're not. So I don't know if maybe they're gonna Apocalypse War is gonna do the next bit, and then they're gonna do one the year after, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it'll be interesting to see, because I hope they don't just leave it hanging. But I feel like they did that. I think it was maybe Throne of Atlantis where they teased it, almost like they teased Legion of Doom, but then they never did anything with it.
Well, they did, but it was at the start of Justice League versus Titans, and it's like an opening scene, and that's it. So you get the Justice League back then the Legion of Doom, but it's literally like an opening scene, and you're like, I was thinking I wanted a full movie. I didn't want.
Yeah, right.
I didn't want just a 10-minute scene at the start of another one.
Exactly.
So
I guess I have to rewatch that one because I don't even remember that.
It's all right. It's not brilliant. It's got some good moments, but it's not. Yeah, it's not amazing. So.
Well, there's so many of these that I don't go back to them all that often, and it's not because I don't enjoy them. It's just because in 3 months I'll get a new one. So it's hard to go backwards.
And because I've got all Blu-rays, I've got them all in a tub. I get the tub out and I look and I'm like, I can't bother to pick one of these, so I just end up putting them back. I think I've watched Dark Knight Returns most of them all. I watch that one quite often because it's well, I think that along with this for me are like the two best ones I've done. So
nice.
Yeah. And that's got a yellow S on the back of the cape, Superman as well. So that was a win for that one. Yeah. So I'm trying to think, where did we get to? Well, we sort of skipped to the end, didn't we? But
yeah, we're jumping around, but that's all good.
So yeah, were you okay with the Darkseid stuff?
Yeah. Like I don't mind that Darkseid is in it. I did like. It's funny because they opened up the big portal in the sky where Darkseid was going to invade from.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this again, because again, it's become another standard in superhero movies. And I like that then they twisted it and closed it.
Yeah.
When Cyborg Superman essentially betrays Darkseid, and I went, oh, that was cool. That was a nice tease where you go, oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah,
and then they're like, nope, just kidding.
I mean,
I thought that was kind of neat.
Sorry, yeah, I was confused because Hank Henshaw he sort of talks to him and he's there. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, is he on Apocalypse and then his body's there? But then I think they do say that it's all in his mind, don't they, at one point?
Yeah.
But I think that was just for our benefit, wasn't it? That's the way we saw it. We didn't just see Darkseid talking to a camera type thing. We saw Darkseid talking to him. So have you noticed Hank Henshaw kind of looks like Superman, but he's got smaller eyes and white hair?
Yes, well, exactly. I did notice that his face was very similar, but they just different color hair, which I thought was clever. Yeah.
I like when Lois goes to the ship to see Cyborg Superman, and his voice changes from Jerry O'Connell to, I think his name's, what's his name? Patrick Fabian. It changes the voice, and I thought they did it really cleverly. Because obviously he's got to be Superman, so he's got to have Superman's voice. But because Hank Henshaw's got a different voice, he kind of goes from Superman to Hank. And it's really clever. It's really subtly done and really clever. And there's little bits in fight where they kind of keep mixing it a little bit. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, that's neat. So yeah, I didn't mention Patrick Fabian because I didn't know who he was, but now that I see his picture on IMDb, I was like, oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
I recognize that guy. He's a character actor.
Yeah. He's really good.
He's been in a bunch of stuff, but yeah, he's not like a household name.
No. That's what I thought. I was looking at him last night, and I thought I'd recognise his face, and I think he'd been in a few comedy shows I watched and stuff, and that's how I recognised him from those kind of things. So
yeah.
They what did you think of Superman's like mullet and stubble?
Oh, I don't mind it because I'm like that's how I expect him to look when he emerges anyway. Like that's pretty standard for the resurrection of Superman.
When the first time I saw it, I thought it looked a bit funny.
I think that they, much like with the looks of the 4 Supermen, I think that they made it look less 90s because I feel like in the 90s the mullet was much more mullety.
Yeah,
and
it was. Yeah.
Here it's just long hair.
It looks like a guy who do a hair rock or something, like I could be in like Whitesnake or something with long hair.
Right. Yeah.
But first time I saw that, I think I actually laughed in cinema because when he turns around in ship, I thought, I don't know why it just made me laugh, but just one of those little things. So sorry.
But he had the black suit and the long hair, which again, like when I think of the resurrection of Superman, those are the things that I always picture.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And it looked because I remember in the comic, it always bothered me because like the S came up to like the top. But they did the same. Right. They did the same in this, and I'm like, oh, well, at least they kept it like consistent. They didn't. But yeah, that's his regeneration suit, is it or something?
I guess, yeah.
I'm sure. Don't they actually call it that now? Is that do they say his ship's regenerating him or something?
I don't know if they literally call it that.
No, maybe you're right. Yeah, I think they say something about the ship regenerating him, don't they? In the fortress,
yeah.
I love the look of the fortress, by the way. I thought that was really well done because they kind of did crystal without being able to do crystal, if that makes sense. Because it was all kind of like see-through, so I really liked that about it.
No, yeah, I think that the Fortress of Solitude looks great, but it was interesting because it felt like. I guess it hasn't been in these movies yet, so they said, oh, it was built to regenerate him. Yeah,
I thought was really clever.
Which was, it was neat, because I honestly, like, I'm just so used to it being a part of the world that I would have never questioned it. I would have just gone, oh yeah, of course, Fortress of Solitude, but I guess they still felt like there would be people who would go, wait a minute, this is the first time we're seeing it, so they felt like they had to write in a reason for it. But, I mean, that works. I think that's fine.
I mean, not to bring up like Man of Steel and that, but it kind of bothered me that they kind of, because this Fortress of Solitude was that ship, wasn't it? And then Zod like took it to Metropolis, and I'm like, well, what about his? All I kept thinking was, what about his Fortress of Solitude? He ain't got one now, so I guess.
No, I felt the same way. I kept waiting for the ship to like go back to the Arctic so it would still have a Fortress of Solitude.
And then I kept thinking, well, he can't really carry that from Metropolis to. I don't think he'd be able to carry it anyway, because even if he's Superman, it's massive, isn't it, that ship? So I'm thinking, well, he can't carry that to the Arctic, can he? So I was thinking, how's he going to... But then, if he'd have had one in next film, I wouldn't have complained. I'd have just gone along with it, so...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So yeah, I thought that was really neat. Well, but wait a minute. Like, in the Death of Superman, was there a fortress? Where did they... Because...
well, the Eradicator's in the comics prior to the Death of Superman, because it's like... I don't even know what it is. It's like a little contraption thingy. Because have you ever read Exile? Where Superman does it. So basically, when Superman kills Zod in the comic, he puts himself into exile and he travels off in space, and he ends up going to like Warworld and stuff like that. But he meets up with a guy who was like an elder on Krypton, and he dies and gives him the Eradicator. But the Eradicator tries to make when he brings the Eradicator back to Earth, it tries to make him more Kryptonian, and it sort of becomes a thing. It doesn't start off as like a person or a thing. It's like this little device he's got. So there's like a story arc, and he ends up fighting the Eradicator in like the technology in the Arctic, and it builds the fortress. So it's a bit convoluted, but
okay.
So the fortress is already there in the comics before he dies, and then when he dies, the I think it's the robots bring him back to the fortress to regenerate, don't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had time this morning, I would have watched them both again just so I could remember all the things that connected them. But I just watched this one. So.
Oh, sorry. Were you on about the first film?
Yeah, the first film.
Oh, I
Because
thought it
like
was
in the
another
first
book,
film,
sorry.
no, it's okay. In the first film, they introduced the idea of the Eradicator because there's the holographic,
Yeah, that's
whatever
right.
they call
yeah,
it, the
yeah,
nanny.
Yeah.
But is that in the Fortress of Solitude?
No, it's in like Star Labs or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
At the end of
it's
the
fuzzy.
at the end of the first part, the ship takes off into the Arctic,
Right.
and the ship builds the fortress.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry, I totally thought you meant the comic. I bet you were thinking, what's it on
No,
about?
it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Still learning new stuff. It's fine.
Sorry if you
But-
can hear my baby in the background, by the way, he's in the other room. So.
That's okay. He's welcome to be a guest on the show too. Future Superman and Batman fan.
Yeah, definitely. It will be if he's my son, trust me.
Yes. Oh, all right, cool. Well, anything else about the movie that you wanted to make sure you called out before we move
Yeah,
forward?
just obviously the final fight with Cyborg Superman. I really like that Lois does the line. It's pretty much from Aliens, where she says, "Get away from him, you bitch." Or you son of a bitch, I think she says. But you know, in Aliens,
Yeah.
I loved it.
I didn't make that connection, but yeah,
Oh,
you're
did you
right.
know? I first time I saw it, I think I spotted it. So because Aliens is like one of my favorite films, so it's like a great film. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
and
awesome.
The bit where he's kind of got hold of him and he's like, you know what's coming with the sun's up, and he's like, I'm going to tear your eyelids off if you don't watch, because wants to watch him kill Lois Lane, doesn't he? And then the heat vision just, he like his eyes open and they're red, don't they? And he like blasts his arm.
yeah.
That
And
is so cool.
Thank you for bringing that up because yes, that was one of those things where as soon as he says, oh, open your eyes, I went, okay,
Yeah.
we're making this a moment, and they do, and I think it's awesome. Like it's exactly what you want it to be of him. He opens his eyes, sure enough, and now he's got powers again.
What do you think happened to the Cyborg Superman's body, by the way?
I mean, don't they just kind of leave it there? Like, I feel like that isn't the last we see of it. Is he? So we find out, again, my complaint is they didn't bring the Eradicator with them, and we find out that they sort of did. He brought him in a crystal.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, well, I still think you would have brought him as normal because he's probably more useful that way. But whatever.
Yeah, there's that line in there where Cyborg Superman says like, "You won't kill me, but I'll kill you." But then I'm like, then he sticks a crystal in his head. I'm like, well, I think you've pretty much just killed Superman.
Yeah, you kind of did, right? Yeah, saying I'm not going to kill you, but my buddy will.
Yeah, he's a bit like
Isn't that sort of yeah. But yeah, so like he jams it in there, and like the Eradicator, it seems like he sort of eradicates Hank Henshaw's consciousness.
That's what
right?
I thought. So technically, because he's already dead, it's kind of not. It's a bit
Yeah.
like that. I won't kill you, but I won't save you type thing in it. In Batman Begins, it's like it's a bit of a grey area.
Right. But yeah, I think that's the last we see is the body with the crystal in its head. We don't see anything past that, do we?
I don't think so. No, he's just floating. But I just wondered, do you think he's going to come back, or do you think that's it?
I think that's it. I mean, I think if they really wanted to, they could, but I just think they have other priorities.
I hope they don't, to be honest. But
yeah, no need to.
And then there was the great bit, wasn't there, at the end where Martian Manhunter was playing Superman, which I thought was funny. But it's obviously
that's great. Yeah.
Jerry O'Connell doing Martian Manhunter or Superman. So.
Well, and I always like the idea of like, especially when we're dealing with the death and return of Superman, is how do they explain that Clark Kent is gone that same amount of time? And I think this one does it very well of being like, oh, he was really, Superman brought him back, and then having the two of them standing right next to each other, I think was amazing to really help make everyone buy the story. I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, and did you notice Martian Manhunter was slightly taller as well?
Yes, I thought that was cool too, is that
Yeah.
they made Superman taller than Superman.
That was clever. But in the comic, it's actually Supergirl, because she was some weird, like, protoplasmic thing that could change into people.
Oh, really?
So she turns into Clark in the comic, I think it is.
Okay, interesting.
Because they do in the comic, they say he's been living underground, don't they? And because in the I feel like even though there's a lot of destruction when he fights Doomsday in this, I feel like in the comic there was a lot more. Like a lot more. So maybe you could have had people like living in underground subways and that had been caved in and stuff. They could have got away with it. maybe not for a year, but And then obviously you get the shirt rip, don't you? Which, as a Superman fan, I love to see the shirt rip. So
Yes. Well, and then I love the triumphant return of Superman
with a new costume
sequence
as well,
at the
yeah.
end there. Yeah, with the new costume and him just flying around being Superman. I just think that's awesome. That's a great like triumphant way to end the movie.
And I really want that in live action. I need to like have a Superman film where it ends like that and it just flies off. And I mean, I'm not against like a dark story for Superman or anything, but I feel like at the end of a Superman film, it should be very hopeful, shouldn't it, when you leave?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because like the end of Justice League, when he did the shirt rip after 3 movies, I was like, oh my god, finally! And I was happy as I could be in cinema watching the end of that. So it's same sort of feeling.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean it's like this classic Superman moment that just makes you go, oh yay, Superman, and it makes you happy, makes you warm inside, and yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, because you get people, don't you, who go like, oh, Superman's cheesy and all, and I'm like, I love that about Superman. I like the cheesiness. I think it's part of the character. So for me, if I get a bit of that superhero cheese, I'm usually smiling from ear to ear. So
yep, nothing wrong with that. Embrace it.
So yeah, that's. I don't think I've got anything else other than that.
And then, like we said at the end, there's the post-credit scene where they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, listen, Darkseid's not going away. We're going to bring the fight to him." And I like then Lex walks in with the green and purple suit, being like, "All right, guys, I'm in." I think that's awesome.
It kind of.
I hope we see it paid off some way.
It kind of does what I did and kind of forces his way into. I'm gonna force my way onto this show, and he's kind of forces.
That you're the Lex Luthor. Congratulations.
I'll take it. Well, my oldest son's middle name's Clark, and my
nice
youngest son's middle name's Alexander. So
perfect.
But I don't know if by doing that I've put them at odds. So.
I'm sure it'll be fine. No, I think that's awesome.
So that's how much I love like these characters.
Well, I'll say, when we all learned that Nicolas Cage named his son Kal-El, I mostly was just like, oh, I wish I could have done it first, because now everyone's going to think I'm copying Nicolas Cage. Because, like, that's just a cool-ass name for a kid, like, whether... remove the Superman part, I'm like, that's just a cool name. And the fact that it's also Superman, that's awesome. Like, I remember people were like, can you believe he named his son Kal-El? And I'm like, yeah, and that kid has the coolest name ever.
Definitely. I mean, I don't know about maybe he should have left the L bit out. Maybe he should call him Cal. If he didn't want it to get... I don't know if it'll be a problem. I don't think you get bullied for it now. I think it's kind of the norm in it to be called certain things. So. Well,
I think yeah, you make his full name Kal-El on his birth certificate, but you just call him Cal.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, nobody probably even know, would they?
Yeah,
unless they call out.
I think that's awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't you give your final closing thoughts and a letter grade for the Reign of the Superman?
Well, I think for me, this is my favourite version of the story. I think I do love the comic arc, but I think there's a bit too much fat in the comic arc and little things that bother me. And although there are a few little things in this that bother me, I think on the whole it's like I said earlier, it's like a satisfying conclusion to the first part. And for me, I think Death and Reign of Supermen are just like two of my favourite Superman films rolled into one. So yeah, I'll probably give it A-.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is a very good version of the comic arc, and I think they do a really good job of boiling the comic arc into one cohesive story and making it a fitting sequel to The Death of Superman. So I really like it. I really like that we get the different Supermen, and for the most part, they're all done very well. My biggest complaint is just how much they shortchanged the Eradicator. That if they had given him a little more time in the second half of the movie, I'd give it a higher grade. But even so, I think it's really enjoyable, and I think it's a good adaptation of the story. So I'm a little lower, but not much. I'm at a B+. I think it's a good movie.
I always think B+ sounds better than A- for some reason. So I don't know. Maybe it's because it's plus and minus, but...
Yeah. So, yeah, Reign of the Supermen. I definitely think it's worth your time, and I enjoyed it, and obviously Steven did as well. So an A- and a B+ from us. We dig it. But anyway, now let's just check a few emails as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Derek. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, so this message here is from Grant Ingram. It says, "Hey, Andy, Jamie, and the lesser half of the Koala Brothers." So, yeah, Jamie and Brendan will just have to hear this later. It says, the show where Henry Cavill, the show that has the Henry Cavill lookalike is on Netflix, The Politician. It was incredibly popular last year, and I'm surprised you haven't seen it. It also starred Gwyneth Paltrow. About Batman, if you could cast literally anyone as Batman at any point in their career, who would it be? And follow-up, what story would you want to see them in? For me, it would be Steve Carell from Now in The War of Jokes and Riddles, because I feel like he could play a great Batman, especially after his more serious roles. Anyway, sorry for the long message. Thanks for all you do, Grant Ingram. Grant, thank you for the message. So, on the last episode, or when you listen to this, it might be 2 episodes ago. Anyway, when we talked about The Politician, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what that is. After we finished recording, I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, I kind of remember hearing about this. It was a Ryan Murphy show, right, on Netflix. So once I dug a little deeper, I went, oh, yeah, I know what that show is now. But I still haven't watched it. And also, you got to cut me a little slack because when I'm in China, I'm just a little out of the American pop culture loop. I keep up as best I can, but stuff like that, especially like TV shows, I'm not as on the ball as maybe I would be if I was back in the States. But yes, once I dug deeper, I realized what The Politician was. I just didn't know it by name. I had to look at it and go, oh, I remember hearing about that. Anyway, Batman. Anyone who could play Batman at any point in their career, and what story? Steven, any thoughts on this?
Well, I know you're not a massive fan of Year One, are you? But that's my favourite Batman book, so I'd like to see... Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that. I'd like to see an adaptation of Dark Knight Returns, and I'd be happy if it were just Ben Affleck that did it, because I actually think they'd have been better off doing that with Ben Affleck, because I think he would have preferred to have done like 2 films and been done anyway. So
yeah,
and you know, although Affleck isn't as old as the Batman is in that story, you know, they aged him up a little bit in BVS, didn't it? So they could have aged him up. So I'm just going to say Ben Affleck and Dark Knight Returns. Then that's going to be my thing for that.
Cool. I mean, I feel like I've answered this before, but I think Cary Grant in his prime would have been an awesome Batman.
Oh, I never thought to go back that far.
way back in the day. Like, way back in the day. Like, how cool would that have been? Like, if he had done Batman and it would have been like an adaptation of Batman #1, like the first Joker appearance. Like, I think that would have been really cool. More recently, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with that for now because I can't think of anything.
I kind of feel sorry, with Batman, I don't feel like they've, apart from Clooney, but although I even think Clooney could have been a good Batman in like a better film, but I feel like I don't feel like they've ever miscast him, if that makes sense.
No, I agree.
Because I know you're not a massive Val Kilmer fan, but I actually thought Val Kilmer was kind of alright, and I think again, if he'd have had some better material to work with, he could have been like a great Batman as well. So I don't really know. And like Christian Bale got it, and I wanted Christian Bale to get it back then. So I'm almost like, well, it was Josh Hartnett wanted it, but I always want Josh Hartnett to be Superman. So I don't know. I suppose if you can play Superman, you usually kind of can play Batman in a way, can't you? Kind of on that same chiseled look type, dark hair type thing. So
yeah, I can't think of any like near misses of like, oh, if that person had just played Batman. Nothing springs to mind. Well, I kind of wanted Joe Manganiello to be Batman.
He'd have been cool.
But I also wanted him to be Superman. So
yeah,
like before Cavill, he was apparently like in the top 3 choices, and I wanted it to be him. And then I saw Cavill, and Cavill was great, so I wasn't mad about it. But then when they were casting BVS, I went, well, now he can be Batman versus Cavill. And then they picked Ben Affleck. And again, Affleck was great. But I was like, I feel like, yeah, he would have been great in either of those roles, you know, when those movies were casting. So.
Yeah, and I think Joe Manganiello would have been good as Snyder's Batman. I think he would have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it would have suited him as well. So there you go. You got another one there.
There you go. There's another one. Because, yeah, and it also breaks my heart that we finally did get him cast as Deathstroke, and then it looks like we're never going to get anything from that, which is so sad.
Can't they just green light like a Deathstroke film that's going to cost like 70 million or something, and just make an action The Raid type film?
Yeah. There was talk of it, but yeah, it hasn't happened.
I know a lot of fans pick Carl Urban for Batman, don't they? But I kind of can't see him as Batman.
Oh, I could see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That was another popular fan cast that I would have been good with. Yeah. I love Carl Urban, man. Carl Urban can play anyone he wants.
Have you watched The Boys?
Oh, it's amazing.
So good, isn't it? It's great.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, and another one who was on the short list that I loved the idea of was Richard Armitage.
Yeah, he'd be good Batman, I think. Yeah.
He would have been awesome. Yeah. But yeah, that didn't happen either.
No.
All right. Next message, Chris Elliott. It says, "Hey Andy, as you know, we lost Alfred in the comics, and we're all in mourning. Well, you'll be doing a memorial show about Alfred. Also, not a Batman question, but what do you think of Superman revealing his secret identity to the world? Thanks, Chris." Chris, thank you for the message, and I'm so glad you asked this on this episode because we've got Steven on for Superman. We'll be doing a memorial show discussing Alfred. I hadn't thought about it, but I'm open to it. That's not a bad idea. And I didn't know Superman revealed his secret identity. Did that happen in the comics recently?
Yep.
Oh, I had no idea. So I've no thoughts about it other than, wow, I didn't know that happened. Steven, what do you think?
About Superman or Alfred?
Either, I guess. Both.
I'll do the Alfred one first then. I didn't know he died in comics, so that was news to me. I'm a bit shocked that they've killed Alfred off. So, I mean, is that in the main continuity or is that in? Have you read it? Or?
That's the. I haven't read it, but my understanding is it's the main continuity, and so far it has stuck.
I'm a bit surprised by that. Then he'll be back, won't he? So,
You never did
in comics for long, yeah. But yeah, the Superman. I'm not a huge fan of it. I kind of feel like secret identities are there for a reason, but at the same time, the character's over 80 years old, so you might as well tell some different stories, aren't you? I just think.
Yeah.
I actually got a bit bent out of shape about it on Twitter when it first got announced, and I've kind of calmed down about it now and thought, actually, I've got all these Superman comics and stories and stuff where he does have a secret identity. What's the harm? And end of the day, it'll come back because comics always come back around. So. I still think it's a bit of a weird shot because Brian Michael Bendis was kind of on a bit of a winning run with Superman, and then all of a sudden he's kind of annoyed a lot of Superman fans, and I almost kind of think what's he doing? Like, what's his end game? I guess you can't really. I can't really judge it because I haven't read it yet. So until I read it, I can't really judge it on its own merits. But as a concept, I don't like it. So that's probably my 2 cents on Superman revealing his secret identity.
No, I actually agree with you. Like, again, I haven't read it, but just from a high level of like that idea, I'm like, yeah, is that an interesting idea for a story? Sure. But I also am like, well, yeah, there's a reason he has a secret identity, and I think that's a big part of the character, and I wouldn't want that to be a lasting thing where everybody knew who Superman was the way everybody knows that Tony Stark is Iron Man.
Yeah, and I think Superman, this Superman that's in the comics now is the post-crisis version, isn't he? So there's a story arc called Ending Battle where his secret identity gets revealed to the world and he has to protect everyone that he loves and like Lois Lane and all that, and put all his friends in like this container thing to keep them safe. And you're like, well, what's changed from then to then? So, but I guess comics like soap operas, they kind of rebound on each other, don't they, and just regurgitate and ignore the past sometimes. So yeah.
Comics are soap operas. Let's be real.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's why I think long form storytelling works better for these characters, like TV shows and stuff.
Yeah. All right, cool. We'll do one last one here. This is from Zach Nicholson. It says, hey, I started listening to the show about a year ago, and I've been checking out archived episodes. Recently, I listened to your episode on the Untold Legend of the Batman, which was great because it introduced me to a series that I had never read before. I'm a 32-year-old man who just got into comics last year. It was fun to hear more about you guys and your experience with comics when you were young, and I also learned more about Batman comics history in general, which I love and I'm enjoying catching up on. I know you've done episodes on other comics like Hush, The Dark Knight Returns, The Long Halloween, and I'm sure there are others. I also know there are a lot of topics that you cover on the podcast and only so much time. But would you consider reviewing other comic series in the future? Perhaps some of the more obscure stories that you mention when someone asks about it in the Wayne Manor mailbox, like Batman Death of the Maidens or Batman Kings of Fear. Thanks for the work that you do. Zach, thank you for your message. Yeah, absolutely. Like when there's an arc that is kind of self-contained and easy to cover as its own thing, I do love doing episodes about those stories, and we should work to do it more. So yeah, I think so. Especially like some of these that even I haven't read. I would love to go back and finally check them out. So the answer is yes, we will try to do that. So thank you for the suggestion. All right, well, we're going to close the Wayne Manor mailbox for this one. Nice and short and sweet this time. So there you go. If you've got a question or a message to send to us, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. That's where we're going to wrap up this episode of the show. Steven, it was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me. The pleasure's all mine.
Well, thank you for joining. We really do appreciate it. And guess what? I can check Reign of Supermen off my list. I feel so productive today. I feel like I did something worthwhile. Tell our Bat family at home where they can find you online.
Yeah, so if you want to chat to me about superheroes, comic books, anything, you can follow me on Twitter at SteveBob1984. And I am on another podcast, which is Tales from the DC Multiverse. That's not the name of the show, although there is a show called that. It's like more like a network. So the shows I'm on are Krypton's Legacy, a Superman podcast, and Gotham City Central, a Batman podcast. So check those out.
Awesome. Nice. And you also recommended to me the Lois and Clark Christmas episodes, right?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
That was you, yeah. So thank you for that, because they became part of my cheer-a-thon this year as I watched nothing but Christmas stuff all December long.
Yeah. That Mixie one's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that was really fun. And again, it was right there on DC Universe. So convenient.
If you've got it.
If you've got it, yes. All right. Well, yeah. Check out Steven's show, and give him a follow on Twitter. Again, he's actually a very nice Twitterer, so we need more positivity in our lives. But yep, that'll do it for this episode of Holy BatCast. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe so you never miss an episode. Please rate and review us on iTunes, and most importantly, as Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com. Find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for us. You will find us. And again, if you've got an email for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. So thank you again for joining us. On behalf of Steven, I've been Andy. This has been Holy BatCast, and we will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
I just want to ask.
Here it comes.
I'm just saying, are we presidential bodyguards or are we the Justice League?
Today, We're bodyguards.
And you don't think there's other stuff we should be doing?
The Titans have it covered.
The Teen Titans. Oh, yeah. I feel good about that.
Chillax, Zippy! The Titans are cool!
Zippy? Wait, did he just say chillax?
Young man, stay off this frequency. It's for League members only.
No, it's for the President's protective detail. As the new head of LexCorp Global Security, I qualify.
I have the shot.
I say take it.
That's enough. We have a job to do.